So are you ready, faithful? Because this Monday night, in the brightest lights of prime time, to close out week 4, my San Francisco 49ers and everybody's San Francisco 49ers are going to host the LA Rams in the ultimate showdown of the NFC West in Monday night football. Oh yes, Monday night football, especially coming off that week 3 Sunday night football stinker that the 49ers provided against the Denver Broncos. Oh yes, Monday night football with that Niners offense hosted by Joe Buck, the all-time GOAT on commentary, and Troy Aikman, the all-time GOAT on color commentary. Oh yes, Monday night football. It was so great. But in all seriousness, yeah, here we are. Week 4 of on a Monday night, and it just feels kind of disappointing, to be honest with you, because it just feels like a similar situation back in 2021, except, well, it doesn't. But at least for Kyle Shanahan's 49ers, it kind of does. So, here we are in this situation, 3 weeks into the season. They're 1-2. They're coming off an embarrassing loss to the Denver Broncos on a Sunday night football game. And, yeah, they did not particularly play well. I mean, not on defense, because they did really good. But on the offensive side, we'll get into that in just a bit. But overall, they did not play particularly great. It was a very ugly game. The Broncos also played pretty poorly, too. But they had many opportunities overall in that week 3 game. But they absolutely blew it. But here they are. Here they are. Similar situation, kinda. Week 4 matchup against a division rival in the LA Rams. They were in this situation last year when they were 3-5, coming off a very bad blowout loss to the G League Arizona Cardinals team where they got their asses kicked at home. And they needed to beat the LA Rams, who were leading the division, coming off their first loss of the season to the Tennessee Titans, to keep their, what I said at the time, delusional playoff hopes alive. Why did they call it delusional? Go back a year earlier and listen to those episodes where I talked about the 49ers all season long. In short, during that half of the season, like when we got to week 10, when I previewed their matchup against the Rams, I predicted a Monday Night Massacre. I talked about OBJ getting into the lineup. He was going to be in that game. He was just signed by the Rams. I mean, yeah, it was going to take him some time, but I called it a Monday Night Massacre because Cooper Kupp was still playing well. Matthew Stafford, he had a pretty bad game, but he was primed to bounce back. Van Jefferson, still there. That overall offense still doing pretty well. And then, of course, you got that defense with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, it was just primed. It was just a prime matchup for the Rams to bounce back. And it turns out it was just a reverse Uno card for both teams. The 49ers ended up doing the ass kicking on the Rams. Jimmy G did pretty solid, but it was where Deebo Samuel shined the most. He debuted his wide back role for the team as they kicked the LA Rams' ass, and it ended up serving as the catalyst for what was to come the rest of the way for 2021. So, again, here we are. 2022, week 4. It's their first meeting since, well, that fateful NFC Championship matchup back in January where they were just this very close to meeting the Cincinnati Bengals in that same stadium in the Super Bowl. But they just threw it away. They were just an interception away from getting back to that Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals, and they were a quarterback away from getting to the Super Bowl. They could have done it. They honestly could have done it. They could have beat the Cincinnati Bengals in that Super Bowl, but I digress. That's the past. So anyway, that Week 10 matchup against the Rams was the catalyst for their turnaround in 2021. Can they do it again? on a Monday Night Football game against the Rams in Week 4 coming up? Well, we're about to find out. So going back to this past week, they're both teams' Week 3 matchups. For the Rams, it was relatively straightforward. Not really the exactly prettiest of wins for the team, especially on offense, but their role players stepped up for the team, and especially on the defensive end. Their defense, led by Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, they limited Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense, holding them to just field goals in the 20-12 victory. And again, Cooper Kupp really didn't do much for the day, but he did get his first rushing touchdown. So, hey, you do what you got to do to win these games. And that's where the reserve players behind Cooper Kupp and the receiving end, they stepped up big. Oh, Cam Akers also had a good day in rushing as well. So, overall for the Rams, not exactly the prettiest of wins, but when your role players, when your reserves step up, hey, you get that's a win for your team right there. For the 49ers, well, yeah, it's another story for them. You lose Trey Lance for the season, your starter. You lose a season of his development. Yep, you're right back where you are with Jimmy Garbage Fail. More Jimmy Garbage Fail. Another season of that. And that's another showcase on Sunday Night Football. It's pretty much a showcase of why you want to get rid of his ass after the NFC title game. A lot of screen passes, a lot of high throws, a lot of throws into tight coverage that turns into turnovers, and a lot of Jimmy G sacks. And then, of course, the Dan Orlovsky moment of the game. Jimmy G taking an intentional safety by waltzing back into the end zone. Just like that. So, all in all, a very shitty performance that pretty much wasted a great performance by that defense. Well, maybe it was either a great defensive performance or a very shitty performance by Russell Wilson in the Broncos offense. You can look at it one way or the other. I don't know. So overall, they lose to the Denver Broncos 11-10 in a very ugly, one of the ugliest games I've ever seen as a filthy casual fan. So going into this game, injury-wise, on the injury report for the Rams, they're missing their wide receiver too, Van Jefferson. He's on injured reserve until week 8, so he's eligible to come off the injured reserve list by then. So he's going to be in the second Rams versus Niners matchup when they head to Los Angeles. He underwent a knee procedure during training camp, so they're down a receiver. Matthew Stafford doesn't have a vertical threat that could spread the field. That's where you signed Allen Robinson, right? I've yet to hear his name. You signed him, a 1-year shit ton of money contract? Use him. Allen Robinson's also not helping this case either. So they're also going to be down a couple of their starters on the offensive line, and when that doesn't help when you're already missing some starters if you're the Rams. Going into this game, if you're the Rams, lineman David Edwards, who entered the concussion protocol. You also got your center, Brian Allen, out with a knee injury. Again, you lost your guard, Tremaine Antrim, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, with a fractured fibula. And he doesn't really have a definitive return from injured reserve. And for the season, you lost your guard, Logan Bruss, to a season-ending ACL, MCL injury. So a lot of injuries within the offensive line for the LA Rams, and doesn't help that back in the offseason, Andrew Whitworth, your left tackle, already retired. You're also going to be without some corner depth if you're the Rams, opposite Jalen Ramsey, when your other starter opposite of him, Troy Hill, is on short-term IR with the groin issue. So you're not going to be with Kobe Durant, who's dealing with a hamstring injury, and David Long, who's dealing with a groin injury. So you're going to not really have much depth behind in the secondary position. So you're going to have to figure something out there. But you will have at the safety position, so you at least have some help in the secondary. Jordan Fuller, he's cleared to play after dealing with the hamstring issue. For the 49ers, my 49ers, unfortunately, injury mania is ramping up wild again in Santa Clara, and it's not looking good. It's honestly not looking good. As if losing Tyron Davis-Price and Elijah Mitchell and others was bad enough. Now you're not going to have Trent Williams for a couple weeks with a high ankle sprain. You're also not going to have linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair for a couple weeks with an MCL sprain. Man, those are two key losses there. You may have defensive tackles at Eric Armstead, who dealt with the foot injury and didn't play in that Denver game on Sunday night. You could also possibly have Javon Kinlaw, who didn't practice most of the week with a knee injury. Now, I think it's the same surgically repaired knee that kept him out of practice this past week. Both are questionable to play in this game, but I do, in my opinion, believe that Eric Armstead has the better chance to play in this game than Kinlaw. If Kinlaw does not play in this game, I do expect a lot of Kevin Givens in this game. And if Givens does play, I think he does have a good chance to have an impact in this game, because he did have a nice outing in Denver. I do think he did pretty well. Backup tight end Ross Dwelley is also questionable with a rib injury, so that tight end spot behind George Kittle not looking good, especially with Tyler Kroft already out with, I think it was the foot injury. And offensive lineman Daniel Brunskill, hey, with a lot of negatives, there's at least one positive, right? He was dealing with a hamstring injury. He got in at least 2 limited practices in. Now he's back in the lineup. So progress, I guess, with the offensive line. So that's something, right? So some of your top stories for the week: Jimmy Ward, the safety and corner Jason Verrett. They could be back to practice before week 5. So probably after this Monday night matchup and going to that Panthers game in week 5, but it's no guarantee that they play in that game. But hey, at least you're getting your depth back somewhat when you're losing some. I gotta say, they really got to figure out their strength and conditioning people over there. And there was this viral video going around of Jimmy G, the Sunday night camera crew, like if Jimmy G mouthing something. It was along the lines of, "Kyle, your plays suck." Was that really what Jimmy said, or was it something else? I do believe it's the former thing that he said, but either way, let me know your thoughts about that, however you can. Now, going to this game, some players to watch for the Rams. Of course, you got to keep an eye on Cooper Kupp. He's always a threat, whether he's apparently now running, involved in running plays like Deebo Samuel is, but especially in the receiving end. Sure, Matthew Stafford's not exactly playing the best football right now, but Cooper Kupp is always a threat no matter what. And you all know who else is a threat no matter what? Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald for sure is going to attack that weak-ass offensive line for the 49ers. So Aaron Donald, is going to feast, especially with Trent Williams out of the lineup. Jalen Ramsey in the secondary, you got to account for him, especially, considering Jimmy Garbage fail. And some individuals to keep in mind, even though they haven't really played a role that much in the last game or two, is Allen Robinson and Bobby Wagner. I haven't really heard their name that much in the last few weeks. I mean, that's just me watching the highlights and whatnot, but I mean, I would like Allen Robinson to step up in this offense with Van Jefferson out, because you got Sporonic, that Sporonic guy, stepping up to be Matthew Stafford's somewhat vertical threat. But you signed Allen Robinson for a reason. You signed him, and now with Van Jefferson out, you kind of want him to be that threat downfield, but he's not doing anything. But this is an opportunity for him to get involved with Van Jefferson still out for a couple more weeks. And this with the 49ers secondary, it's kind of meh. I mean, they're fine, but with the injuries piling up for them, you got to take advantage of it. And for Bobby Wagner, this is an opportunity for him to go ham in the shadows on Jimmy G. Now for the 49ers, obviously the biggest spotlight is on Jimmy Garoppolo. Can he bounce back from that absolutely horrendous performance on Sunday Night Football? Sure, you can blame it on rust all you want. You can blame it on the lack of training camp all you want. The thing is, you've been there for 5 years now. The playbook hasn't really changed much. Sure, the guys around there have changed, but you've been there for 5 years. And okay, I get it. The shoulder surgery kind of gave you rust too. But whether or not you were accounting to stay there, you should have been you kind of should have been at least 50-50 ready to go out there. I mean, it's kind of a bad take and whatnot, but it is what, you got to take what you can get. All right. And another player to watch out for, actually it's a couple players, is the entire offensive line without Trent Williams. Yes, Aaron Banks, Cole McKivitz, Jake Brendel, Mike McGlinchey, and Daniel Brunskill. Yeah, that lineup screams, oh my God, what are we getting ourselves into? So it's going to be interesting how they're able to block Aaron Donald, Bob Wagner, all those people, Leonard Floyd. Oh boy. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Was there also supposed to be some changes in the offensive line this week after Kyle Shanahan bitched at Jake Brendel for botching the snap with Jimmy G that caused the turnover in that Denver game? Well, we'll see. But either way, the entire offensive line has a tall task on its hand on Monday night. But the entire defensive line, they can have the same. They can have the same, not challenge, but they could also present a bigger problem for the Rams offensive line, because the Rams offensive line is just kind of like the 49ers offensive line, where it's kind of weak right now, missing their starters. So the Niners defensive line with Aaron Donald, the Niners defensive line with Nick Bosa, Drake Jackson, Eric Armstead, if he plays, Kerry Hyder Jr., Samson Ebicom, they are going to be looking to feast on the Rams' weakened offensive line. Go after Matthew Stafford. Keep him in the pocket. So that's going to be interesting, I guess. So looking at some keys to victory for both of these teams, for the Rams, if you want to prevent Matthew Stafford from getting sacked a million times on Monday night, well, obviously the first thing you got to do is, if you're the Rams, second-hand offensive line, you got to do your best to protect him from the 49ers' relentless pass rush. You got to get that ball out super quick. One of the things that the Rams did successfully on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals last week was that they called a lot of play-action passes. They got Matthew Stafford out of the pocket very frequently, and they did very well with it. Perhaps that's their key to success here in this Monday night game against the 49ers. And then you got to find a way to get Allen Robinson involved more often than usual. Because, like I said, you need that vertical threat downfield. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure if Allen Robinson's that much of a vertical threat. But find a way to make him one. Find a way to get him involved. Allen Robinson's also got to do the same. Find a way to get involved. Now for the 49ers, protect Jimmy garbage fail. And Jimmy G, can you be creative on offense? Find a way to make plays happen. Get out of the pocket. Stop being a damn statue that's super glued into the ground so damn much that you can't move. And stop waltzing around like, oh, I watched the movie Happy Feet so much that I'm going to copy all the moves feet by feet. So Jimmy G needs to be challenged to get creative with this offense. He needs to be challenged with the basic fundamentals to get out of the pocket and throw the damn ball past 10 to 15 yards. Enough with the screen passes. We need 2017 Jimmy G back in this age. Is that too much to ask? Is that too much to ask right now? I mean, we get his limitations. And I know Trey Lance still remains the future, but for God's sakes, we still have 2 more months to endure of Jimmy garbage fail. Can at least Jimmy G try to improve on something before we have to say goodbye to him forever? Jeez, that's all we ask for. And then, last but not least, can we see less of Deebo Samuel, the running back? Like, of course, last year, the Week 10 Monday night game was the birth of wide back Deebo. But the Rams are going to be ready for that, for sure. They're going to be ready for that. You know, they've experienced that firsthand last year when that debuted. They experienced that last year when they allowed that comeback. They choked. And then they experienced that in the NFC title game. I mean, even though they won, they had a hard time. They still had a hard time stopping Deebo Samuel, the running back. This time, they know what to expect. They've dealt with this 3 times over. So it's time for Kyle Shanahan to find a way to make use of Deebo Samuel, the receiver, more and more than Deebo Samuel, the running back. If you're going to run the ball, utilize your running backs. Don't utilize Deebo Samuel. Utilize Jordan Mason. Utilize Tyron Davis-Price is not there. Utilize Marlon Mack. Utilize Jeff Wilson Jr. Utilize the players that are meant to be those players. Is it that hard? Is it that hard? So, I know a lot of you are going to hate me for who I'm picking to win this game, but I'm going with the Rams. I'm going with the Rams. And sure, you can say, oh, you're not a real faithful Niners fan if you don't pick the Niners to win. But the Rams have the more, at least, skillful quarterback. Jimmy G is he going to provide anything? Is he going to adjust? We don't know yet. He's like a jack of all trades quarterback. Matthew Stafford, I mean, sure, he chokes time to time, but he can find a way to bounce back. Has Jimmy G done that more consistently than not? We dealt 5 years with that, so no. So I'm going with the Rams on this one. And hell, if I'm wrong again, I'll admit I'm wrong. I'll admit that I was wrong here on the recap. So for now, I'm going with the Rams over the Niners. And the Niners will go 1-3. The Rams will go 3-1 on the season. So that is my preview for the 49ers taking on the Rams on Monday night at Levi's. That I'm going to miss because of work. I hate my life. But anyway, if you're going to watch this game, I hope you enjoy it. And let me know your predictions for this game. Do you think Jimmy G's going to bounce back? Do you think this whole team is going to bounce back? Do you think Kyle Shanahan's going to finally do something to utilize Jimmy G's strengths? Let me know in the comments below. All right? Anyway, this is DylanLasagna signing out a very cold lasagna. And keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge, which your takes on the world of professional wrestling, sports, and my San Francisco 49ers. And until next time, peace out.